Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nightjar bot demo. I want to quickly point out that we will be working out of the PayPal bot workspace, which is essentially the same as the PayPal workspace, except it's just used for testing. It makes it a bit easier for a demo, but the actual Nightjar bot app will be available on the PayPal workspace. So I created two private channels here. They can be public as well. I'm going to go ahead and show the configuration really quickly. All you go to is integrations, apps, add apps, and then type in Nightjar, and then you can click add there. Now I want to quickly test out the functionality of the chat. I want to show that this chat functions as a completely normal chat. I can say, hello, are you listening? And the bot is not listening because it filters out noise and makes sure that users in a chat are able to have normal conversations without it responding to everything. Let's quickly type the help command to see how we can mention it and get useful information. We'll receive a reply from the bot. As you can see, this is the action we did here. If we want to mention it in the main channel, these are some of the commands we can run. Let's take a look at these first. If we want to do the first one, which is run a validation check on an API path, we are going to mention the bot, run a quick validation on open PRs for the following link. And I just used an arbitrary link for this. It's just one of the APIs that I thought I would test on. And the bot is currently running a validation on this. It may take a minute. As you can see here, this is the user who submitted a pull request that did not pass the validation checks. The reason for that was that new paths were added to, but the README was not updated. There needs to be fields checked for, and also there needs to be fields checked for formatting issues. I want to keep this demo as short as possible, so I'm not going to go into any more detail for the validation for these PRs, but this is the general message that you'll receive, and the user should be tagged if they're in the channel. If we want a more long-term solution to checking the validity of a PR, we can ask for that. We'll say the repository, tag the bot, and then say monitor the open PRs here. The bot should come back with a response saying that they're now monitoring the PRs. The monitoring happens at the top of every hour, so I'll cut to that when that happens. I got a bit impatient and just decided to scroll back to some of the previous responses I'd received. And as you can see, unprompted, the Nightjar bot pasted the violation response into the chat. You might notice that it's at 5:37 a.m. And the only reason for that is because I set it to minute posting rather than hour posting. I think that's about all I should mention for monitor postings. Let's look at some of the other commands we can run. If we want to ask the bot to actually stop monitoring this PR because it's no longer necessary, we can just say stop monitoring. Now the bot has stopped monitoring pull requests for the given repository. We can also ask simple questions such as how many PRs are being monitored. And the answer is obviously 0 because we were monitoring one and then we stopped. Now, for the sake of showing that this can be handled in multiple channels, let's ask the bot for the same thing. Nightjar bot, begin monitoring this open PRs. Now it's going to go ahead and reply saying it's monitoring it. Let's just check in the other channel to see if this PR is being monitored. So how many PRs are being monitored at Nightjar? And we should receive a response with the number is still 0. If we hop over to this channel and we say the exact same thing, we should receive 1. We pretty much covered the PR validation, so let's look at the evaluation up here. All of these requests here are essentially saying the same thing, so I'll just show a couple examples of what we can do. Let's take a look at this same repository here. So we'll mention the bot again and say evaluate this from October 4th of 2021 to November 28th of 2021. Now we'll receive a reply that the validation is running, and this may actually take a minute because this is going through every file in every single commit between these date ranges. We've received a response, and now we can ask some follow-up questions. Let's look at the help menu. We'll step through most of these so you can get a general sense of how they work. Let's start with general info. We can always use the help command at any reply chain, but let's not do that because we have our help section up here. Let's say list all the file paths, and these are going to be the file paths that have changed. We can say list all the file names, which would be the file names of the files that have changed. We can also ask how many files changed. and it should list 18 different files. Let's take a look at our help section again for more questions. We can move on to categorize here and note that the category property here is one of the following. We can go back and let's say we want to categorize by actions. This will return a dictionary of files where the keys are the value of the action here. Now, if we want to categorize by actions and then by authors, for example. As you can see, under modified, there's a subcategory of the author, and then there's another author here under modified. This may not be the best method to subcategorize, but you understand the functionality of it now. Let's take a look at our help section again, and the next section is summarize. And there's all these different requests you can get for summaries, for files, and for different categories of files. Let's try a couple of them out. If we want a full summary, we can just type summarize. The response might be pretty long, but it should be formatted quite nicely. As you can see, it is split into different sections. There's documentation changes. If we want to narrow it down a bit, we can ask for documentation changes and use all the other methods as well. Let's take another look at our help section to move on. We have report, and report is very similar to summary, so we can try report. Report is similar to summary, but the difference is that it gives much more specific details about each file. For example, it gives insertions, deletions, lines, the size and bytes of the change, the different actions, the timestamps, the commits, the authors, etc. If we want a report of a specific file, we can take the current name of the file and ask for a report, and we will receive a report for that file. Now we have detailed info on each file section, so I'll go ahead and ask some of these questions. Let's say we're particularly interested in this file here. We can, for example, take the current path and then say how many insertions for the file. And as you know, there is 10 insertions. You can say what are the actions for the file, and it should be modified as it is above. You can get very specific information like that. You can also say something like this. List all the authors for the file, and we should receive these two authors here within that date range. So we can thank our bot for giving us this information. And then the final step would be just to say that you're done. You don't have to do this, but it's good practice. Just to close up the request, and now after this, there's no more messages that the bot will respond with.